I'm here with Robert Kesceg, and I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for your comments about the current governor, Governor Greg Abbott. You said some things that many people are not too familiar with, because Governor Abbott tries to present himself as this great conservative leader, and he's the vanguard of the Republican Party and stuff like that. Not many people realize that really isn't true, but you do. You realize that. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that actually show that you have questions about the conservative nature of Greg Abbott.
Yes, and I want to tell you kind of how the procedure works in the government, in our legislature. Governor Abbott made a priority mental health screening in the schools. Now, this was on the part of the Democratic platform, not the Republican platform. And in order to do that, he, through the Republican leadership, at that time the Speaker was Dennis Bonnen, Speaker of the House, Republican. They appointed Senfronia Thompson, who is a far left Democrat, 26 years in the House, I believe. I think she's the most, has been in the House the longest than any other rep. Made her the chair of the Public Health Committee so that this would obviously go through the committee and come to the floor of the House. So everything was done in the favor of the Democrats by our Republican governor. And so it passed 31-0 in the Senate, which also was majority controlled, and it passed 134 positive votes out of 150 in the House. The overwhelming support, because any bill that the governor makes as a priority, it can be taken up on the very first day of the 140-day session. Okay. And it was passed very, very quickly through. So I want to compare that mental health screening. If you're concerned about the mental health of children, K through 12 is what it was about, and that has now been input into our schools. How concerned are you about their mental health when now you're abdicating your authority or your leadership position to the left once again and allowing the mutilation of children? Right. So this mutilation of children cannot be good for their mental health. It can be should be the exact opposite. Right. And so, again, the Democrats wanted mutilation to continue, and it is. They wanted mental health screening, and they got it passed. And it was on the fast track by putting a Democrat to chair that committee. In that same session, to give you an idea, Pancho Narvaez, another Democrat leftist, was made chair of the committee that would handle all the gun laws. So right there, all the gun laws in 2019, nothing was going to happen about constitutional carry. This time, they put, in this session, that passed because they allowed that to pass by putting a Republican on there that could get it out of the committee. Right. So the whole issue of the legislation is orchestrated to think that because you have Republican leadership and majorities in the House and the Senate, and as the governor, that you're okay. It proves that it's just not so. Right. So people are looking for leadership in Texas. Right. And the way we're going to get leadership, I think, is through people who are very sincere about their principles. Somebody like Don Huffines. There's been a couple of things that have bothered me with Governor Abbott. One of the things, as Don Huffines mentions repeatedly, he has not secured the border. And when you have people coming across the border, the Democratic Party loves them because they look at them as being new Democratic voters. But there's another area that I think is a very weak place to Governor Abbott, and that deals with family law issues. When he was the Attorney General of the state of Texas, I believe he was the architect of a lot of these practices that take place right now that help to destroy families. And as I mentioned inside there, that we have currently 1.5 million people in the state of Texas. These figures come from the Attorney General's office that are being raised in single-parent households. Some families have never been formed, others divorce. Divorce has taken place. And we have done very little, if anything, to try to strengthen our families in the state of Texas. But what I'm concerned about is this, that 1.5 million children represents another pipeline of Democratic voters. Historically speaking, if you go back to the time of Vladimir Lenin, he knew that by destroying the family, he would destroy society. By creating dependency among children, where they're not raised within a two-parent family, they have to start looking to government. The first line of defense against totalitarianism, communism, and everything else is an intact family. And that's one area that I've
thought that Governor Abbott has very much failed at. And as you mentioned, with this bill with transgender ideology, already even the Department of Family Protective Services has declared this to be child abuse, and this practice has not been abolished. It was a priority of the GOP platform. I was there when I saw it passed, and he has done nothing to further that. So do you look at Greg Abbott as being a great conservative leader then, or basically somebody who's pulled the wool over many people's eyes?
Well, I would say that he's ordinary compared to most Republican governors. He's pretty much the same. If I could be on the Mark Levin show, I would like to share some of these things with him, because I think they think that Texas is being run as a very conservative state, and it's not.
And it's not.
We have majorities in the Senate, we have a majority in the House, we have a majority of all the statewide seats, all from Ag Commissioner and the land management and everything else are all run by Republicans. But what is common in what you were addressing, what is common is that this state takes federal money to be manipulated and maneuvered in every way, shape, and form. And until we have a governor that's unwilling to take the next federal program to infiltrate the schools, to control the students in the schools, to control how they think, teach them socialism, teach them communism, teach them radicalism. Now they're teaching them to be racist with critical theory. I like to make the point out to people, stop calling it critical race theory, because next they're going to mention critical gender theory, and then it's going to be critical climate theory. It's critical theory. It was developed in the 1930s. Look up the Frankfurt School, search it, and find out. They beat their brains in to come up with this, and it's simply to overturn the culture. The purpose of critical theory was to turn the culture upside down and inside out. And who wins from that? Who benefits from that? People that want to overturn the government. Today we heard in the Huffines campaign here that unless we make a serious change and people take advantage of this primary, this is a primary for governor that we haven't seen in how many elections?
He has never been challenged once.
He's never been challenged once. And I also ask people this, do you believe in term limits? If you believe in term limits, how many terms do you believe in? Most people, when I ask that question rhetorically to groups, they say, I would say most people say 2 terms. All right? He's been in for 2 terms. Now it's up to you as a voter to impose term limits. Because those elected will never vote for term limits and term limiting themselves. It's going to be up to the voters to impose term limits to make it happen. That's the only way it's going to happen. So now you have the opportunity. There's only 60 days left before this, roughly 60 days left before this election takes place. And people better find out that there are other people running. And I obviously endorse Don Huffines. I think the world of him. Why not have a businessman lead Texas instead of a 30-year political person that thinks nothing else but politics, does everything by putting a finger in the air to make their decisions? This man has been in business with his brother all these years, very successful. He wants to do something for the state of Texas and do it in the direction of the conservative movement and keep Washington out. We have enough Washington. I was glad to see the young moms getting excited about CRT, that they have enough of it, but they have been in the schools for a long time before CRT. I'm talking about the left-wing socialism stuff. So I think we're running out of time. We're running out of time.
Well, thank you very much,
You bet.
Robert. It was great to see you.